see politicians want to enact harmful credit card mandates that could take away your cash back and rewards points. Perks that stretch your budget and make life a little easier. Losing these benefits means less money for your family's everyday essentials like gas and groceries. The perks you rely on could disappear, leaving you with higher costs and fewer options. Tell Congress to guard your card and oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card mandates.
Paid for by Electronic Payments Coalition.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. That's ziprecruiter.com/zip. ziprecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm-up for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends. We're going to be chatting it up with Dylan Rockford, who does such a great job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We have to take a look at this very wild playoff picture. I know that he's a New York Mets fan, so certainly we're going to be taking a look at those guys, and we're going to be previewing some of the games that we've got for Friday in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions, everything is powered by Edge Boost. With Edge Boost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. They make sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days out of the year. You earn cashback rewards as you utilize Edge Boost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, Greg. That's going to get you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Thursday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The top under team in baseball certainly remains sad as the Cincinnati Reds, well, now they are on to having 90 unders, 59 overs, and 10 pushes, and they did just enough to be able to get the job done against the Pittsburgh Pirates. 2-1 the final is for Noelvi Marte. He saves the day. Emilio Pagan was on in the 9th inning. It looked like a ball was going to go over the fence. He had a home run robbery, so Pagan was able to give a scoreless inning. And Nick Lodolo, how about an amazing start from him? 12 punch-outs, 6 1/3 innings, 2 hits, no runs allowed. Graham Ashcraft, pair of outs on the bullpen squirrels. Tony Santillan does give up a run in an inning, and Braxton Ashcraft, not a lot of length. He gives up 8 hits and 4 1/3 innings, but limits the damage, only gives up 2 runs. From there, Carmen Miladzinski, 2 scoreless innings, and Kyle Nicholas was able to give you 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Your top over team in all of baseball, that would be the Toronto Blue Jays. They do play an under, though, and now they and the Seattle Mariners are essentially tied for the top over rate in all of baseball. 86 overs, 67 unders, and 6 pushes in the case of the Blue Jays, 5 pushes for Seattle going into the night on Thursday, so Seattle can overtake them with an over against the Colorado Rockies. But that said, for the Toronto Blue Jays, they find a way to just absolutely take it to the Boston Red Sox in what was a game that was started by old Louis Varland for the Blue Jays. They do get the job done in this one, this by a count of 6-1, as for Varland, he was able to give 2 scoreless innings. From there, you had Eric Lauers, essentially a bulk guy, 3 1/3 innings scoreless. Braden Fisher gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and From there, you did have Sir Anthony Dominguez along with Mr. Brandon Little. Both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jeff Hoffman, a scoreless inning, and Brian Bayo. He does give up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 5 innings. Trevor Story, his 19th error of the season. Justin Wilson gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning as he gave up a home run to Dalton Varsho. That would be his 20th home run of the campaign. He inherited some runners from Bayo, so that was a grand slam. Zach Kelly from there gives up a home run to George Springer. Springer's 31st home run of the campaign, and you had Chris Murphy give up nothing in his 2 innings of work, but by then it had been a case of a little bit too little too late. And then for the Minnesota Twins, they find a way to persevere and get the job done against a now eliminated from the playoffs Walker Texas Rangers team. 4-0 the final as Bailey Ober's had a rough season. 6 scoreless innings, Cody Funderburk, Pearson, Yule, and Cole Sands. They all make you pound. Sands, they all end a scoreless inning. Tyler Mahle, not a bad start here. He gives up 1 run in 5 innings. That 1 run was a solo run to Byron Buxton, 33rd home run of the campaign, and then Buxton off of Chris Martin gets his 34th home run of the campaign. Martin gives up 3 runs, 5 hits, and 2/3 of an inning. Jacob Webb, 2 scoreless innings. Hobie Milner, a quartet of outside the bullpen, but absolutely nothing doing for the Texas Rangers on this day, so that led to them taking a big giant L. Also being able to take a big giant L was the Athletics, as they followed to the Houston Astros, who had lost 5 straight games going into this one. They really needed this game. 11-5 the final. Framber Valdez, just the second time since the beginning of the month of August that he did not give up 4+ runs in a start. 10 punch-outs, allows a solo home run over the course of 7 innings of work as Nick Kurtz takes him deep, 34th home run season. Then off of Añal de los Santos, Kurtz did his 35th home run season. De los Santos gives up 2 runs in an inning. Nick Hernandez gave up a pair of runs without getting a single out of the bullpen before Brian Abreu cleaned up his mess. And for Christian Walker, he goes deep off of Scott McGill, his 24th home run season after JT Ginn and Juice had given up 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Brady Basso, 2 runs allowed in his inning of work. You had McGill give up that home run in 2 innings of work, and Osvaldo Bido, 2 1/3 innings. He allows a run along the way, and he did not have a lot of run scoring out there in Philadelphia. For the Phillies, they find a way to manage against the Miami Marlins. This by a count of 1-0 as Walker Buehler was able to do a solid job in this one. 5 scoreless innings. Taijuan Walker in long relief, 2 scoreless innings. Matt Strahm, David Robertson, they both led a scoreless inning. And Jansen Junk, just the second time in his last 11 starts that he gives up fewer than 3 runs. 1 run allowed in 4 2/3 innings, and the bullpen did their part from there. Cade Gibson and Ronnie Enriquez combined for 2 scoreless innings. Josh Simpson, Calvin Fauché both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Phillies, they go 0-10 with men in scoring position, but they find a way to be able to get this one to the window, and they're able to get that W. And also being able to get the W, the LA Dodgers 8-0. They absolutely lambasted the Arizona Diamondbacks, who scratched Zach Gallen and instead went with the wholesale approach. And for Jalen Beeks, he was the opener. He takes the loss. He gives up a home run in his inning work as he gave it up very early on to Freddie Freeman, his 22nd home run of the campaign. And then for Freeman, he would go deep off of the bulk guy, Annabelle Crisbet, for his 23rd home run season for Crisbet. He also gave up a home run to Andy Paz, his 27th home run season, and Shohei Ohtani, his 54th home run season as Crisbet. 3 home runs allowed, 7 runs, 5 of which were earned in 3 innings. Taylor Rashi, 3 scoreless innings, and you did have from there the young gun who I believe was making his MLB debut in this one, and Mr. Austin Pope be able to land 2 scoreless innings, but by then it had been too little too late, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he was on it in this one. 6 scoreless innings. Taylor Scott, Will Klein, and Anthony Banda from there, they're able to turn a scoreless inning to be able to complete that shutout. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they yak this one away against the Baltimore Orioles. 6-5, the Orioles get the job done as they were down 3 runs going into the bottom of the 8th inning. As for the Rays, Drew Rasmussen, not long for this game, but 2 1/3 innings scoreless. From there, they decided that they were going to be going with a bulk guy, and Jesse Schultens, who used to be of the Chicago White Sox, he gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned in 5 1/3 innings, including a pretty big home run to Ryan Mountcastle, 7th home run of the season. And then Kevin Kelly, he allows a pair of home runs that essentially ends the game in the 8th and 9th inning. Kobe Mayo, 10th home run season, and Dylan Beavers, walk-off home run, his 4th home run season. Cade Povich continues to be miserable for the Baltimore Orioles, 5 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings, but bullpen at his back. Yermil Hidalgo, and out of the bullpen squirrels, Kate Sowd, Rico Garcia, Keegan Aiken. They don't throw the ball over the mountains, but they throw the ball over the plate. I'll give you a scoreless inning, and the Orioles have actually been one of your best under teams in all of baseball as well. For Baltimore, 64 overs, 89 unders, and 6 pushes. So a rare over from them, and this was a overwhelming performance from the New York Mets, something that they haven't done a lot of. Get wins 8-5 the final. They take down the Chicago Cubs. Shota Imanaga just gets completely lit up in this one. Gives up a pair of home runs. Brett Beatty, 18th home run season. Francisco Lindor, his 30th. 5 2/3 innings. He allowed all 8 runs in this one. Drew Pomeranz from there brought out the bullpen scoreless. Michael Soroka and Taylor Rogers both on his scoreless inning, and Noah McLean had given up 3 runs or fewer in every one of his MLB starts. He gets lit up in this one. 5 runs allowed in 5 1/3 third innings, including 3 bombs. Seiya Suzuki, 20th and 29th home runs of the season. Dansby Swanson is 24th. But he did complete 5 1/3 innings, got the W. Ryan Stanek from there, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Edwin Diaz, Tyler Rogers, and Brooks Raley. They do not go off the Rayleys. They are all able to end a scoreless inning. And you had plenty of scoreless innings lent by the Detroit Tigers. They were able to take down the Cleveland Guardians just by a count of 4-2. As for Troy Melton, he was essentially an opener plus in this one. 3 2/3 innings, allows 1 run, and then everyone behind him did their part. Tyler Holton gives up a run in an inning, but Brant Herter, Tommy Canley, they both give you 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Kyle Finnegan, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Will Veste scoreless inning. And then for Parker Misick, not what he was looking for. Gives up a trio of bombs, all 4 runs allowed in 5 innings, as you had Jahmai Jones get his 7th home run season, Wenzel Perez is 13th, and Riley Green is 36th. From there, Matthew Fessa had a fiesta. He and Tim Herron both give you a scoreless inning apiece, and Zach Kent and Kobe Allard, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, but damage by then had been done, and the New York Yankees did some damage to the Chicago White Sox. 5-3 the final, as for Davis Barney, he gives up 3 runs in 4 1/3 innings. From there, Tyler Gilbert, 1 run allowed in 1 2/3 innings. Mike Vasil gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings, and Cam Bouger, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Yankees get the 5 runs despite going 2 of 13 with men in scoring position, as Carlos Rodon gives up more than 2 runs for the first time in 8 starts. 3 runs allowed in 6 innings. Did allow a home run to Michael A. Taylor, 9th home run of the campaign, but bullpen at his back. Devin Williams, David Benar, Luke Weaver, they do not poop the Benar. They're all able to give you a scoreless inning, and to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. This game just now coming to a final. We're right now in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs, and the Royals are up by a count of 9-4. So we know how this game is going to go. As for the Angels, this is not what they were looking for out of their bullpen, as Mitchell Ferris, not a great start. 4 runs allowed in 5 innings, and he did allow a home run to Vinny Pasquantino, 32nd home run of the campaign. From there, Connor Brogdon, 2 scoreless innings. Ryan Zefrion gives up a run in an inning, and Sam Bachman, 4 runs allowed in the 9th inning, less than tremendous there. And for Michael Lorenzen, gives up a pair of home runs in 5 2/3 innings, struck out 9, and he's not a strikeout guy, as he's taken deep by Joe Adele. He sets fire to the rain, 37th home run season. Nolan Schunel is 12th, and then off of Steven Cruz, you had Mike Trout get his 23rd home run season. Cruz gives up 2 runs in his inning work. John Schreiber, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels, and Lou Inder Avila right now working on completing a scoreless 9th inning to be able to get that one to the window. And for the Colorado Rockies, well, they lose to the Seattle Mariners. Shock, surprise, surprise. This by a count of 6-2. Believe the total was 8, so I believe that the Mariners and the Blue Jays are tied for the top over 8 in all of baseball, but Bradley Blaylock continues to show that he's not a big league pitcher. Now, a 9.36 ERA, 5 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. He gives up a home run to Eugenio Suarez, 49th home run season. Anthony Molina gives up 1 run in 2 1/3 innings. Luis Peralta, Zach Ognos, both give you a scoreless inning, and Emerson Hancock, not a long start, but a good one. 7 punch-outs, 4 scoreless innings. Carlos Vargas from there gives up a run in 2 innings over Casey Lugumina, gives up a run in an inning, but Caleb Ferguson, Matt Brash, they're both able to give you a scoreless inning. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in baseball right now, it has been an underwhelming season thus far, with the under hitting at about 51.3%, 1,166 overs, 1,109 overs, and favorites on the money line hitting at about 56.5%. 1,328 and 1,025 on the money line for favorites. Meanwhile, if you look at the last 30 days in baseball, favorites hitting at only about 54%, 210 and 179 on the money line, with the over rate being just 48%, 182 overs to 197 unders. And if you look at the last 7 days in baseball, favorites hitting just above 51%, 46 and 43 on the money line with the over rate, and about 44%, 37 overs to 47 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with one of our good friends, Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He joins me on the flip side right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Dylan Rockford aboard. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He's doing a little bit of everything. He's over there at Axe Kicks Picks, doing a nice job. He does the Dream Wager podcast. He does a bit of everything, whether that be football, basketball, baseball, you name it, he does it. And you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X with Rock with 2Ks, 24 altogether. And Dylan, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Good to see you and good to talk to you. Last time I feel like we were talking about this AL West race, and I kind of said, hey, on paper, I felt like Seattle was the team. They finally put everything together, and I'm kind of happy for them because for the last few years, this Mariner team, I felt like was the better team, but I think experience played a large role in it. And they finally got through, and I'm happy for Cal Raleigh, and I'm just happy for Seattle. So I'm glad they got it through.
Yeah, with the Seattle Mariners, it's going to be really interesting to look at them because I cannot remember a more open league than the American League this season. And why not the Seattle Mariners, in my opinion, who I recognize that sometimes the lineup could be a little bit all or nothing. It's been a little bit up, down, all around with regards to that rotation, but they certainly have the starting pitching to be able to get it done. Andres Munoz, he's blown a few saves, but he's been very rock solid as well. In a wide open American League, I say that this could be the year that the Mariners break through, especially with the way that the Astros have just upchucked all over themselves here in the last few weeks.
Yeah, 100%. I think it really is wide open right now for the AL. I like Seattle just because I think the pitching could really get it through, and they're getting hot at the right time. So is Cleveland, by the way. But I just think Toronto is in a free fall right now. Yankees are getting hot. They might be able to win the division as well. But yeah, I probably would like either Seattle or Cleveland just because we talk about streaks and, they might not be the best team, but it's about getting hot at the right time. And I think that has to be either Seattle or Cleveland.
Yep, with Seattle and the Cleveland Guardians, that has been the two hottest teams out there. But I do have my concerns for the Guardians when they get into the postseason, just because I recognize that you don't need to have a whole bunch of matchers because the balls that are flying out in June and July, they're not flying out this time of year. But how much of a concern is it that other than Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan, that the Guardians just don't have much of a lineup to really rely upon?
I'm kind of biased because they play baseball the way I like. They kind of play small ball. They don't really hit for a ton of power. And I think you can make the same argument with the Milwaukee Brewers. They really don't have guys on that lineup that really hit a lot of deep balls as well. But they just find holes in the field and they score runs and timely runs at that. So I know a lot of people fall in love with the home run ball and you might really need it in the postseason, but I think the pitching and their bullpen, I think they're going to keep them in a lot of games. So I really don't worry about that. I think they'll be just fine, actually.
And with the Cleveland Guardians, man, this has been a team that has been as hot as lava. And what do you make out of them and the way that they were able to win that series against the Detroit Tigers? And now the Tigers find themselves in a must-have-it series against the Boston Red Sox, which is just wild to think about when, if I'm not mistaken, they were up 15 and a half games on the Cleveland Guardians at one point post-All-Star break. And all of a sudden, it's the old South Park meme where it's like, and it's gone. It's gone for the Detroit Tigers.
That's great. Yeah, what a great episode. But yeah, when they were up 15 and a half games, I want to say it was either late July or early August. It's one of the worst collapse. And I was just on the MLB gambling podcast with Scott Reichel, and we were talking about, I think a legitimate question is, do they keep AJ Hinch? This is a generational collapse. So is Houston, but they at least have won in the past. Detroit, there was no way they should have lost this division. And now they have a series coming up in the last 3 days of the season against a Boston Red Sox team who they need to win this series as well. Their offense has been really productive as well. Detroit, their offense is broken. I haven't backed Detroit in, I think, a month, and I haven't missed a beat. honestly, and I don't miss it at all. You can't back this team. I think AJ Hinch needs to get fired, actually, after this year. This has been remarkable, a collapse like that. So I worry about them. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think Boston winds up getting that last seed, but there needs to be some accountability with this team, and they're even wasting school bowl starts at this point. So I feel bad for them, but at the end of the day, someone needs to be held accountable, and 9 out of 10 times it's usually the manager.
And I must say, Terry Skubal needs to realize that he's not a long snapper as well. That was not great, to say the least.
No.
Like, that was the epitome of what has happened to the Detroit Tigers. Him trying to hike the ball through his legs. That was not exactly what you wanted to see, to say the least, if you're a fan of the Detroit Tigers. But what you do love to see is, on this podcast, our good friend Dylan Rockford joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and talk about an interesting series. The Milwaukee Brewers have things mostly wrapped up out there in the National League. I think that they might need 1 or 2 more wins to be able to get that 1 seed, but we know that they're going to be getting a bye. They play against a Reds team that they've got everything on the line. They needed that Noel V. Marte robbery of a home run to be able to take down the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday. We don't know whether they're going to be tied for the lead in the wild card or if they're going to be a game back, because we're doing this before the Mets game went final. But that said, how do you take a look at this spot with the Reds being about a plus 130 to a plus 140 underdog against the Brewers on Friday?
Yeah, Priester got moved back till Friday, and I was talking about it on the MLB show. I know the Brewers have clinched, and, you know, they're kind of coasting right now. I agree. I think they do need one more game to get the 1 seed, but I truly believe the Brewers want to win this game for Quinn Priester in the streak. At 19 in a row, they got to get 20 for him, and I feel like Quinn Priester has been solid against the Cincinnati team this year. In 2 starts versus Cincinnati, 2.61 ERA. He's given up just 3 runs in 10 innings, and Cincinnati's only hitting 2.16 off of him. Reds have kind of gone cold offensively as well. I mean, yeah, they won, and I think that was a catch, but, you know, the offense doesn't look good. And we're going to fade Zach Littell here on the road. I don't think he's good. He hasn't been good in a while, so it's a little chalky. I would take the Brewers, maybe sprinkle a little of them on the run line, but yeah, I probably would take the Brewers here.
Yep, and would you be looking at that 7.5 to 8 over? Because I'm right there with you, and I think Priester's doing for a little bit of regression because he's not a strikeout guy, but with the way that Zach Littell gives up so much hard contact, this does feel like a pretty low total.
100%. I thought that was extremely low, 7.5. My total came out to 8.4. I actually would take the over because as good as Quinn Priester has been, he's good to give up 2-3 runs as well. So 4-4 type of game, we're guaranteed an over at that point. So yeah, I would take the over as well.
Yep, I'm right there with you. That's the one thing that really stood out to me right away. And I know that you're a New York Mets fan. It's the old Saved by the Bell sort of meme where it's like, we don't want to talk about it, but we have to. For the Mets, they're either going to be a game up on the Reds and company in the wild card when this comes out, or they're going to be tied with the Reds. And I believe that the Reds do have the tiebreaker. And now they have to go up against a Marlins team that they're pretty much eliminated from the postseason, but they are still fighting for a 500 season. We've got Sandy Alcantara going against Brandon Sproat with the Mets about a minus 130. How do you take a look at both this game and the Mets in general? Because, man, like, I am a neutral observer here, and just watching this Mets collapse is like watching a train wreck. You try to look away, but you just can't.
Greg, I was really hoping 10 minutes into this, I was like, wow, we're really not going to talk about my Mets. I was so happy.
Oh, you thought that you were going to get away with that.
I thought for a good minute, but honestly, Greg, we watched 162 games about to be this season. Let's be frank, the Mets don't deserve to get into the playoffs at this point. The Mets will probably lose this game. They'll probably lose this series as well. I made them a minus 105 favorite, but I would go against my numbers. Brandon Sprout, he's kind of been up and down, small sample size, but only 3 starts. He'll have a good game. He'll have a bad game. He walks batters, if I'm being honest, and I just think this is a bad spot for him. He's facing a Miami team that they're playing well. They're scoring some runs. Not last game, they got blown out, but for the most part in their run, they are scoring runs. The Mets are not. They're the definition of inconsistent. Outside of that comeback against the Cubs the other night, this team just rolls over. They have no heart. The bullpen stinks, and they struggle on the road. Honestly, my father was asking me, obviously this household is a Met fan, unfortunately, but he said, you think they'll get in with the Reds and the Diamondbacks? I hope not. Truly, and I know that goes without saying as a fan, but this team just doesn't deserve to be in the postseason. Now, I will say this, Greg, if they do get in and somehow, obviously they're probably going to face the Dodgers on the road. if they somehow beat the Dodgers, we know the NL East team who winds up getting a bye, we wind up fading them in the divisional round. So if they do that, we get the Phillies, I might be all the way back. Talk to me in a few weeks. But for this game, I'm going to take the fish here. I'll take the plus money.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild that they're throwing out there the young guys like Sproat and Jonah Tong in must-have-it games as well. That tells you where this pitching has been for them thus far this season. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, I was very stunned to see them push back Zach Gallen and essentially punt the game on Thursday against the LA Dodgers. They are very much selling out to try to get the series against the San Diego Padres. And right now, the Padres with Yu Darvish going up against Zach Gallen are about a -135, -140 favorite, total of 8. Want to get your thoughts here because Gallen has been better recently, and they're banking on him giving you a good start here. And for Yu Darvish, this is not the Yu Darvish that we all know and love, and he just has not looked right all season long.
Yeah, I honestly hope the Padres win, for the Mets' sake, that is. But the Padres need this game. You know, they're obviously already in the playoffs. Dodgers did win. They did clinch the division. I agree. I think I just worry about Yu Darvish, who this whole season, he's kind of been inconsistent up and down for the Padres, and he really hasn't done the best versus Arizona team this year. Neither has Zach Gallen, but I will say, to your point, he has looked better as of late, and the last time he faced his San Diego team, the Snakes won, and he only gave up 1 run in 6 innings, so I think it should be a close game, but I rather would not take a side. Instead, I probably would lean towards the over 8. It's a little chalky at -120, but my total came out to 8.6. I do think both pitchers are good for 3-4 runs each, and we know how bad that bullpen is for Arizona. They got taxed today. I probably would look towards an over, if anything.
Yeah, but I do think that that's a relatively solid look, and I'm going to be looking at that over as well, and there's a lot of fascination on the board as we also have this game between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays, and things are all of a sudden getting tight for the Blue Jays too after I don't know what they were doing with throwing Jose Barrios out of the bullpen. Eric Lauer was a solid starter. They've been throwing him out of the bullpen, but we do know that Shane Bieber has a fever for getting outs. They go up against the Tampa Bay Rays with Adrian Hauser. Right now it's -180, -190 on the Blue Jays. Want to get your thoughts here because with the Rays, a lot of their young pitchers have been very much on an innings limit, and I feel like the one guy that they might actually ride here is Adrian Hauser because he's not a guy that they're looking to for a decade plus down the line. So I think that they might just have Adrian Hauser eat this one, whether he's doing really good or really bad.
I mean, I can't believe they lost the game. They blew that game as well, but it's another over. Honestly, 7.5, even at 8. I do think it's trending towards an 8, so it might close around an 8. But a game where my total came out to 8.6. Yeah, Shane Bieber's been okay, I think, since coming back. I'm a little harder on him because I do think he's really good, but I don't think he's been that good since coming back. He gives up the long ball. Walks are starting to be a problem as well. And Adrian Hauser, he's given up 2+ runs in 5 of his last 6 games. Honestly, ever since coming over from Chicago, I don't think Hauser's been that impressive. I do think this is a spot for the Blue Jays bats to finally get going because I said it at the top. I worry if this offense doesn't pick up quickly, they might have a short postseason in October. So both teams have been playing towards an over as of late because of how bad the pitching and bullpen has been. But yeah, I probably would look towards an over. I can't lay over a -180 with how bad Toronto has been. I just can't do it, even at home. So I think the value is with Tampa Bay, but I probably would lean towards an over, if anything.
And the Beebs has been giving up the deep ball as well, right around about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. So that's a little bit of a concern. And anything else that you might be looking to bet on Friday? Because we've went through a lot of the games involving playoff teams, but as we know, games involving non-playoff teams, tickets cash the same, whether it's the biggest game of the day or the smallest game of the day. So anything else that you might be looking at?
Yeah, a lot of games have been off the board because we really don't know who's going. I had a nice look. I think if it is Will Warren and Trevor Rogers, I probably will look towards an under. I mean, Trevor Rogers has been really good for the Orioles. He's only given up more than 1 run in the last 10 games 1 time, and that's including a start versus this Yankee team. That game went under. Will Warren has been solid at home for the Yankees. Even in a loss in his last start at home, he only gave up 1 run on 4 hits. So I probably would eliminate the bullpen and probably take a first 5 under, maybe 4.5 in that Orioles and Yankees game. And then lastly, I probably would take the Guardians here. I like the over as well, 7.5. My total came out to 8.1. Slade Cecconi's had a decent September, but prior to that, he has struggled for the Guardians. He's given up 2+ runs in 13 of his last 15 starts, and 7 of his last 11 have gone over this total as well. And on the other side, you got Jack Leiter, who he did have a good August, but he has kind of regressed to the mean in September, and so have the Rangers. I mean, they've just been a back-and-forth team. They're eliminated. They've lost 7 of his last 10 starts, and, he's starting to give up the long ball as well. We just talked about Shane Bieber. Jack Leiter's been giving up the long ball as well. Walks continue to be a problem for him, and with the way the Guardians are swinging the bat, I mentioned it, they just find holes in that field. I just don't see how they don't win this game again, and I probably would take the over as well.
I think that's a solid look, and it is going to be a very, very wild Friday in baseball. These final 3 days of the regular season going to be bonkers. And Dylan, I know you're buckled up and you're ready for all of it. You do such a great job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast. I work with a little bit of everything for them. So I'll have to get people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you guys can find me over on X/Twitter at Rock with 2Ks24. Week 5 of college. I mean, the college football slate this weekend has been amazing. We got our first international game in Dublin, Ireland, so that should be very fun. UFC is back on the land down under in Perth, Australia, so that should be fun. And BKFC, we got an event in here in New Jersey at the Prudential Center, so I'll be there. So, yeah, we're locked and loaded, and playoff baseball's next week. There is nothing better than playoff baseball, I'll tell you that, Greg.
Oh, it is going to be an amazing playoffs where I can't remember a season where it's been more open in baseball. So this is going to be amazing. The going is getting good. And Dylan, he's been along for the ride all season long. So big thanks to Dylan for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
DC politicians want to enact harmful credit card mandates that could take away your cash back and rewards points. Perks that stretch your budget and make life a little easier. Losing these benefits means less money for your family's everyday essentials like gas and groceries. The perks you rely on could disappear, leaving you with higher costs and fewer options. Tell Congress to guard your card and oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card mandates.
Paid for by Electronic Payments Coalition.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So big thanks to Dylan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Will say before I go any further, quite a few games off the board. We're going to be getting quite a bit of that the next few days just because there are some teams in which your season is done and they're looking to just try some things out. So I will say that, and we will start with this first game. It is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals, they're facing off against the Chicago Cubs. This is one of those games that is off the board as sold undecided for the Cubs. Miles Mikolas goes for the Cardinals. We would have to be looking at the Wrigley Field wind situation for a total anyway, and it does look like we are going to be getting some directional wind. It should be blowing out a little bit, but it's not going to be too hard. It's going to be like 3 mile per hour winds. So I did set a total to where a 9 or less. I'm in on the over 9.5 or the under, and it's looking like Colin Ray should be getting the start here for the Cubs, and if he does get the start, minus 147 or better, looking at the Cubs plus 149 or better, I'm going to be in on the Cardinals with that 9 or less to the over 9.5 to the under. Ray should be contributing in this game in some form or capacity. They have thrown an opener from a few times, and for Colin Ray, pitch to contact guy, both of these guys are. Miles Mikolas, he only gets about 5.8 to 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Ray a little bit better. He's more around about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.2 home runs, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. So he's been a pretty steady guy. 3 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 4 starts. So he's done a solid job of being able to hold down the fort. And Miles Mikolas, well, he has not been able to do the world's greatest job in terms of being able to hold down the fort. As for Mr. Miles Mikolas, his ERA is now approaching a 4.76. He has been giving up right in the neighborhood of about 1.5 5-ish home runs per 9 innings, and he does a good job of keeping things out in front of him with 2 walks allowed per 9 innings. To the credit of Michaelis, he has given up 2 runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts, but just the way that he gives up contact upon contact is not great. You do have 2 offenses that have been in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break, but for the Cubs, it does feel like they were able to get a little bit more online with that series against the Mets. Say Suzuki, Pico, Armstrong here in the second half of the season. They just have not had the same power that they had early on, and obviously Kyle Tucker being on the injured list hurts the team, but Michael Busch is now above 30 home runs. He continues to give you a 340 on base. Nico Horner, since the All-Star break, he's been hitting at 300, and Moises Ballesteros has given this team a nice little bit of a spark. 2 home runs at his first 50 at-bats, hitting over at 285, move the line, getting on base, and that's big because we've seen Carson Kelly cool down a little bit, and on the other end for the St. Louis Cardinals, you really just don't have a lot of bats right now because Wilson Contreras is now injured. He is done for the season. You've had Alec Burleson be able to supply you with 15 plus home runs. He's been able to 285. Brendan Donovan has been able to move the line as well, but the big issue that you've got is that these young guys, Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, Nathan Church, they're all hitting like a 230 or lower with nobody other than Gorman really giving you a ton of power. Now for the St. Louis Cardinals, they've done a good job of being able to hold up in their bullpen as they trade away Ryan Elsley at the trade deadline, but Mance Vanson, Jojo Romero, Kyle Leahy, lots of guys that have been able to give you a sub 330 ERA, and for the Cubs, bullpen has been pretty rock solid as well. Now they've got Daniel Palencia off the injured list. He, Brad Keller, Caleb Theobar, Drew Pomeranz, lots of guys have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. They saved quite a bit of the bullpen a few days ago when Aaron Civale pitched 3 innings of long relief as well, and Andrew Kittredge, since he's gotten to town, about a 3.48 ERA, so do think that the Cubs should be a nice size favorite here, even though they're pretty locked in with their playoff spot. Minus 147 or better, looking at the Cubs, plus 149 or better, the Cardinals, and then 9 or less in on the over 9.5 or higher. The under, we got 953, 954 on the card. It is the New York Mets. They are on the road. They're facing off against the Miami Marlins, as one Mr. Sandy Alcantara is on the bump for the Marlins, and Brandon Sproat is on the bump for the Mets, and the Mets do find themselves as a very, very mid-sized favorite here. You're going to be getting them in that neighborhood of about a minus 130 to a minus 135, between plus 108 to a plus 112 is that number on the fish, with a total between 8 and 8.5. On the 8, over is minus 115, the under is minus 105. Seeing a straight 8.5 out there as well. The under is minus 122, and the over is plus 102, and I did some I told you here at an 8.6. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over, as for Sandy Alcantara, he has been better when he has been at home rather than away from home, but it has been a little bit of a less than savory season for him. Let's call it what it is. He's posting up a 5.48 ERA, 4.26 fielding independent. He's been allowing 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. That drops down to less than 1 home run per 9 innings with a 4.53 ERA at home. But Brandon Sproat, he's making just his 4th start, 3.96 ERA. He hasn't allowed any home runs in 16 innings since getting promoted to the big leagues, but he's not really impressing me overly much. I thought that out of the good young gun prospects that actually Jonah Tong was going to be the best of them, and right now that has not happened, but that's it for Brandon Sproat, doing a nice job in terms of getting right around about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I do think that a Miami Marlins team that is still without Kyle Stowers, they are going to be able to get to him a little bit, because for the Miami Marlins, they still have guys that are doing a nice job, but just being able to find a way to move the line, get on base, not a ton of power, only one guy in the starting lineup that's giving you over 15 home runs, Augustin Ramirez, 21 bombs, but he's only hitting for about a 230 average, but then you do have a lot of these young guys that have come up and they've been able to give you a batting average in that neighborhood of about a 250 or so. Liam Hicks, Connor Norby, Eric Wagaman, Javier Sonja, all these guys between about a 242 to a 251. Alberto Hernandez, 340 on base. He's up to 10 bombs and 250 at-bats. Xavier Edwards, no power, but he's giving you 335 on base at the top of the fold with over 25 stolen bases. Jacob Marcy has been hitting above a 300 as well, so this team is just doing a good job of moving line, and for the Mets, since the trade deadline, they've been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERAs. Ryan Elsley has been a disaster. Reed Garrett, Oscar Barzobin, who had good starts to the season, they've seen their ERAs balloon above a 350. Brooks Raley and Edwin Diaz have been able to do their part, but that bullpen with Gregory Soto is starting to fall apart, and for the Miami Marlins, it's been a hit-or-miss bullpen for them as well. Lake Bakar, he's starting his ERA in the lake. He's been posting up about a 4 ERA. Michael Peterson, great name, not so great that he's given up north of 4 ERA. Valentin Belozo's been a bozo, but you've got the likes of Ronnie Enriquez, Tyler Phillips, Kay Gibson, who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. And for the Mets, the offense has not really been the issue for this team. Like, they've continued to be able to generate some runs. Quartet of guys who have been able to give you at least 24 home runs this season, with Juan Soto being the main catalyst. He's giving you darn near 400 on base with 43 home runs. He's been great. Pete Alonso, 37 home runs, 350 on base. Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo both hitting right around about at 262, 270, 25 bombs for Nimmo, 29 for Lindor. But then you do have the bottom lineup that has been better recently, like Jeff McNeil at 340 on base. I recognize that you haven't gotten a great batting average from Mark Vientos, but he and Brett Beatty up to 17 home runs. Starling Marte, he's been able to find a way on, but I just have so many concerns with his bullpen right now. Sandy Alcantara has been pitching better at home. I did semi-tell it at 8.6. I think that you get runs in this game, but at a plus 107 or better, I think that the Marlins play some spoiler here. I like the Marlins on the money line, and I'm going to be taking a shot on this over. 955, 956 on the card. The Atlanta Braves play host to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitch Keller is on the bump for the Buccos, and Joey Wentz hopes to have the Buccos wincing in pain. As for Atlanta, they're between minus 152 to minus 164 favorites, between plus 128 to a plus 135 as that number on Pittsburgh, with a total of 8.5. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even and minus 110. And this is a total that I did set at an 8.6, so I'm going to be in on the over for Joey Wentz. He was a part of the Pittsburgh Pirates a little bit earlier this season, so he would love nothing more than to be able to stick it to his old team. For Joey Wentz, he's been on 3 different teams, and he is rocking a 5.46 ERA, but the fielding independent is about a full point and a half lower, more around about a 3.97 there. He has been giving up only 1 home run per 9 innings. The 3.9 walks per 9 innings have been a little bit less than tremendous, but ever since he's gone to Atlanta, I believe he's given up 300 runs or fewer in pretty much all but 3 of his appearances, so he's been much more sure-handed there. And for Mitch Keller, he's always had his issues when he's been on the road. Actually has a little bit of a lower ERA on the road this year than in past years, but even though he's not really hurting himself, 1 home run, 2.5 walks allowed per 9 innings, he's got a 4.22 ERA because he's not getting a lot of deception. 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and we've been seeing it with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They've been really limiting a lot of their guys in terms of the amount of innings that they're going to be willing to let them go, so they've been looking to some of these guys like Colin Holderman, Kyle Nicholas out of the bullpen that have been above a 4 ERA. Now, Dennis Santana along with Isaac Madsen did not go yesterday. Both of these guys have a sub-3 ERA. That helps out the Pirates bullpen, but you just don't have a lot offensively for this team. 3 guys on the roster have above 10 home runs this far this season. Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutchen, and Oneil Cruz, and Cruz is full of just a cavalcade of different guys that are hitting a 220 or lower, as Oneil Cruz is obviously the main of them, but Henry Davis, Lovar Piguero, Cam Devaney, you just go down the list of guys that are hitting for no average whatsoever, and it's pretty rampant. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they have to go up against the Braves unit that has been in the top half of the big leagues in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. Now, it can be a little bit hit or miss with Marcell Ozuna because he's hitting below a 235, but he has supplied the team with over 20 home runs. He's well above a 345 on base, and you've been able to get really good production out of Matt Olson, 20-plus home runs. He's been able to give you 370 on base. Ronald Acuna Jr. hovering in that neighborhood about a 400 on base himself, and then Drake Baldwin, 17 home runs, hitting above a 260. He's been rock solid. Shouldn't win Rookie of the Year in my opinion, but has been rock solid this year. Michael Harris, he's up to 19 home runs, and he's hitting at 246. And 266 on base is a big, giant issue, but I know he's been able to give you a bit of something. And Drickson Profar as well. The Braves have had a little bit of an issue with the bullpen, but it's been better recently. Raciel Iglesias is down below a 335 ERA. Dylan Lee has been pretty solid at about a 330. Pierce Johnson give you some good innings as well. So do think that the Atlanta Braves should be able to go out there, take it to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I like this over, as I did sell it at 8.6. And right now, if you're looking to lay a run half with the Atlanta Braves, that's a plus 132 on the run line. I was willing to go a plus 120 or better. So looking at the Braves run line, and I'm in on the over. 957, 958 on the card. It is the Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road, facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Quinn Priester is on the bump for the Brew Crew. Zach Littell is on the bump for the Reds. The Reds are a underdog between plus 128 to a plus 138, minus 155 to a minus 165. That number on the Brew Crew, 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, over is minus 120, the under is even. Seeing one straight 7.5, that is an over of a minus 120, and the under is even. And whether you got 7.5 or 8, I like this over. I told it at an 8.8. Recognize that the Reds have been the best under team in all of baseball, but Quinn Priester just continues to be overdue for regression. He's right now posting up a 3.25 ERA, despite the fact that he's only getting 7.6 strikeouts at 2.9 walks per 9 innings. Now, he's coming in on a really really nice burner run. He has given up 7 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts, got a bunch of strikeouts against the LA Angels, but man, that LA Angels team, they might whiff against a pitching machine at this point, but I mean, for Quinn Priester, when he's been at home this far this season, that ERA has went up to about a 3.70 compared to a 2.91 away from him, and Zach Littell has just been giving up rocket after rocket. For Mr. Littell, he's very lucky. He's got a 3.86 ERA. That fielding independence more around a 4.93 with giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. Doesn't hurt himself, 1.5 walks allowed per 9 innings, but also only 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, facing off against a Brewers team that is right there at the top of the National League in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. Post All-Star break, they have been averaging about 5.4 runs per game, and they're doing it all by moving the line. Christian Yelich is the only guy on the roster that has over 20 home runs this season, 29 bombs, but I mean, he's been able to give you 344 on base, and then you just have a poo-poo platter of different guys that are at least a 330 on base. Rhys Hoskins, who just came off the injury list, Andrew Menesterio, William Contreras, Isaac Collins, Bryce Durang, Jake Bowers, Sal Frelick, Yelich, who I mentioned before, Andrew Vaughn in a Brewers uniform. So, I mean, all these guys have been very rock solid there. For the Brewers, they do have a nice bullpen. Eva Witt, Trevor McGill, currently on the injury list. The likes of Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, giving you a sub-225 ERA. They get Grant Anderson off the injury list. He, Jared Koenig, have both been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. And for the Reds, it's just a very mid bullpen, I think is the best way of being able to put it, like the kids like to say, as you've got the likes of a Graham Ashcraft, Brent Suter posting up above a 4 ERA. Tony Santana and Emilio Pagan, they've both been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Lewis May was looking solid. They sent him down to the minor league level, though, so that's been a little bit wobbly for them. They've had Nick Martinez come out of the bullpen. He's been looking relatively solid in his last few appearances, and for the Reds, you do have a few guys up to 20-plus home runs, Spencer Steer and Ellie De La Cruz. De La Cruz sitting about a 265, and they do have guys that are able to move the line. Noel V. Marte of the Marte Parte, 270 average, 14-plus home runs. Gavin Lux at 350 on base. Miguel Andujar overall for the season at 350 on base. Gabriel Hayes, he's been able to give you over a 250 average ever since he joined the Reds as well, but I mean, they really don't have a lot of big giant poppers. I do, though, think that they're going to be able to get to Priester, but I think that the Brewers just continue to move the line, get on base, and find a way to be able to get this job done. I did set my tell it at 8.8, like the over, and for the Brewers, set their money line price at a minus 154. If you're looking to lay run half, you're right now getting that at only a plus 118. I would have to look a little bit more to that Brewers money line, as I would need at least a plus 132 to take a shot. I think that was just a really bad FanDuel opener. I think that we should be able to get better than that, but if I had to play it right now, I'd be on that money line, but again, that'll depend upon what we get overnight, but I will be on the Brewers in some form or capacity to go along with that over. 959, 960 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks at the road, they're facing off against the Slam Diego Padres. Zach Allen looks at Philadelphia, Arizona, and as of right now, the betting board reads to be determined for the San Diego Padres. That is why this game is off the board. When I was looking before, they were saying that it should be Yu Darvish who's going to be getting the start, and if it is Yu Darvish getting the start against the Arizona Diamondbacks, so that's the Padres at a minus 132, so I would be willing to lay up to minus 131 there, plus 133 or better, and on the Diamondbacks, and made a total of an 8.4, so in 8 or less, I'd be in on the over, and 8.5 or higher to the under, and if you do indeed get Yu Darvish, he has had a brutal season thus far. For Yu Darvish, he's giving up over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Strikeout stuff is starting to come back to him, about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, still giving up sub 2.4 walks per 9 innings, but a 5.51 ERA overall. He's had his difficulties both at home and on the road, and for Zach Gallen, he has been much better down the stretch. Overall for the season, a 4.70 ERA, because the strikeout stuff has really dropped off down to about 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and the home run power, I mean, man, he's given up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, a little bit over 3 walks per 9, but I mean, that said, he has given up 3 runs or fewer in now 5 out of his last 6 starts. He's been around into form, and for Zach Gallen, he always had very demonstrative home and road splits. He's actually been a little bit, shall we say, better with regards to these splits. He still has a little bit of a split, but 4.56 ERA at home, 4.85 ERA on the road. On the road, he does give up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but pitching out there at Petco should be able to help him out quite a bit. And if you don't get Yu Darvish and you get some sort of like a bullpen game for the Padres, honestly, it wouldn't matter too much in this sort of circumstance, because Yu Darvish has just been that bad, and I am that far out on him this season. As for the San Diego Go Padres, what you're really banking on for this team is their bullpen, and that's why a bullpen game is actually pretty solid for the Padres, because guys like David Morgan, Mason Miller, Adrian Morejon, go down the list of guys, give you a sub-3.25 ERA. Robert Suarez can sometimes be a little bit shaky in the back half of that bullpen, but he's been solid. Jeremiah Estrada has been a little bit of an issue, but all in all, it's a relatively solid bullpen. What has not been solid for the Padres has been their home run power. They're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. You have Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado leading the way. Machado, 26 home runs, 275 average. Tatis, 367 on base with 23 bombs. And then they pick up Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, with O'Hearn since joining the team about a 340 on base. Laureano has 9 home runs and 180 at-bats with the Padres. His batting average is down a little bit from where it was with the Orioles, but still overall for the season hitting about a 280. Jake Cronenworth is moved line with about a 370 on base, and on any given night with the pickup of Freddie Fermin at the catcher spot, you have a Padres team that can throw out their 9 guys that are hitting at least at 250 for you. But again, that home run power has not been there for you. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they are still a top 8 team in terms of run creation this season. They got relatively held down yesterday, but Corbin Carroll, he's up over 30 home runs. He's been surging since the All-Star break, about a 345 on base. Gabriel Moreno continues to move the line with a 350 on base. Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo, 370 plus on base out of both of them. Marte has slowed down with home run power, but still over 25 home runs this season. Then a guy like a Blaze Alexander has been able to give you a 325 on base. Adrian Del Castro has been able to hit about a 250 as well. But the big issue that you do have with the Diamondbacks, this bullpen continues to be in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Now, they threw out their B-level guys yesterday, so that means that you're more trustworthy guys like an Andrew Saalfrank, who's been able to give you a sub-275 ERA. He's going to be out there. John Curtis with 2 S's has about a 4 ERA. That's actually one of the more trustworthy guys for this team, along with Ryan Thompson, which is sort of sad, because then you have the likes of a Juan Murillo, Kyle Backus, Jake Woodford, guys that have just not been able to get the job done. So it does lead to a very interesting circumstance on the openers I'm seeing. You've got the Padres right around about a minus 135 to a minus 140. If we could get that down to about a minus 132, would be willing to lay it with the Padres. And maybe my total at 8.4 right now, I'm seeing an 8 with the juice on the under at minus 120 and the over at even. We'll be willing to take that over as well. 961, 962 on the card. It is the Colorado Rockies on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Esteban Marquez is on the bump for Colorado, and Trevor Old McDonald at a farm is on the bump for the San Francisco Giants. Giants are sizable favorites on the opener, minus 230, plus 190 on the Colorado Rockies with a total of 8. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and that initial run line price on the Giants is a minus 102. I'm going to be willing to lay that, as I was willing to go up to a minus 123. Now, McDonald did struggle quite a bit at the minor league level this year when he was at AAA Sacramento, was rocking an ERA of about a 5.31, but we have seen all those Sacramento A's pitchers and the way that they've pitched at home thus far this season, so I don't put too much stock into that, and had a really nice start his last time out. Like, it was very surprising. He got the start at the last minute, and he was able to go out there and he was able to deal for 6 innings against the LA Dodgers on the road. He gave up 1 run. Do I think that that is going to be the norm from? No, but now he gets to go up against the Colorado Rockies team that is dead stinking last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home and on base percentage away from home, as just have so many guys on this roster that are hanging below 225 away from home. I mean, you've got the likes of Blaine Krim, Ezekiel Tovar, Brenton Doyle. You go down the list of guys out producing. It's not even funny. Hunter Goodman is like the only guy with over 8 home runs on the road this far this season. 30 overall home runs. He's been able to hit a home and row, but it has been less than savory for them. Now they're dealing with an injury to Tyler Freeman, and this is a bullpen of the Colorado Rockies that is second worst in the big leagues in terms of their ERA. Luis Peralta, Anel Shavili, Zach Agnos, Juan Mejia. You just go down the list of guys. They're posting up an ERA well above a 4, and everyone other than Mejia is well above a 5. Victor Vodnik, Jeremy Harrogate have been relatively solid. And for the Giants, they continue to be a top 5 team in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, though. Obviously, they've dealt with a lot of injuries, with Randy Rodriguez being done for the season. Do have guys that have seen their ERAs balloon a little bit. Matt Gage, Jose Buto, Ryan Walker, all above a 3 ERA, but Yoeli Piguero, along with Joey Lucchesi, have been rock solid. And for the Giants, this is a unit that they score more away from home rather than at home, because they do play in one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks you're going to find in all of baseball. But here in the second half of the season, you've really been able to get Eloy Ramos going, 330 on base. He's up to 20 home runs this season. Matt Chapman doesn't hit for a lot of average at 232, but he's up to 21 bombs. Jung-Ho Lee continues to move lining at 260. William Adames, 28 home runs. Rafael Devers in a Giants uniform. He's been able to pick it up. Still only hitting about a 234 with the average in a Giants uniform, but 343 on base, 19 home runs, so that's encouraging. The catcher spot has been a big Giant issue for this team, but I do think that the Giants should be able to go out there and take it to a guy in Erman Marquez. And you want to talk about a guy that has become a human pinata this year. For Germán Marquez, he's rocking a 6.49 ERA, and he's giving up 12 hits per 9 innings, 6 strikeouts per 9, 3.3 walks, 1.5 bombs allowed per 9. So, I mean, it has been a big giant issue for him. 4+ runs allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts. And it's not even like when you get Germán Marquez away from Coors Field, he's been some sort of a Mona Lisa Vito pitcher. 6.96 ERA away from home. So I do think that the Giants take it to him, but take it to him relatively soundly. So I tell it at 8.2. So I like the over and the Giants on the run line. 963, 964 on the card. The Orioles hit the road to face off against the New York Yankees. Will Warren is on the bump for the Yankees, and Trevor Rogers is in the neighborhood for the Orioles. Right now with the Yankees, they're minus 142 on the money line, plus 120 is that number on Baltimore with a total of 8.5. Over is minus 120 and the under is even. There are some places that are saying that this is now TBD. I do have to think that we're going to be getting Will Warren. If we don't get Will Warren, honestly, it probably wouldn't be too much of a downgrade for the New York Yankees. But that said, I would be willing to lay up to a minus 136 with Will Warren of the Yankees. If it is a bullpen game, I probably would be going down to more like a minus 125 just because, man, this has been a less than savory Yankees bullpen thus far this season, as a lot of guys have just been struggling in general. Camilo Duvall, since coming on over to New York, well above a 4.50 ERA. Devin Williams is above a 5 ERA. Mark Leiter Jr. right around a 5 ERA. And since coming off the injury list, both Luke Weaver and Fernando Cruz have just toilet bowled. David Benhar has been like the lone reliable guy in this bullpen. He and Tim Hill. Tim Hill has also been able to give you a sub 3.30 ERA, but for the Yankees, they have just been able to slug their way to victory all season long, because on any given day, they can throw out their all 9 starters who have at least 19 home runs this season, and a lot of guys are starting to move the line and be a little bit more consistent there. Obviously, Aaron Judge is judge, jury, and executioner, 51 home runs with a 4.55 on base, but Cody Bellinger is sitting at 270 with 29 home runs. You've had Austin Wells along with Anthony Volpe just not be able to give you much average whatsoever. These two guys have 19 home runs for Volpe, 21 home runs for Wells. Both guys are below 275 on base, both guys below a 220 average, so they need to pick that up. Ryan McMahon has not been able for a lot of average either, but Ben Rice, he's hitting above 255 with his 24 home runs. Trent Grisham, 34 bombs, that's been rock solid. And on the other end, for the Baltimore Orioles, this has been a bottom 3 team in the American League in terms of run creation away from home. They average about 4.5 runs per game at home, less than 4 runs per game away from home, and they've got a lot of guys that have just struggled this year, likes of Kobe Mayo, Dylan Carlson, Ore Mateo, a lot of guys hitting at 225 or lower. Whenever Colin Cowser has been out there, he has not hit for any average, though. They've found some nice young guys, like Dylan Beavers has been able to give you above a 375 on base. You've had Jeremiah Jackson at about a 285. The main constants for this team have really been Gunnar Henderson along with Jackson Holliday. Both of these guys give you 16 and 17 home runs apiece, and now you're getting Jordan Westberg back for the stretch run. He's been able to give you a home run every about 18 or so at bats. This is an Orioles bullpen that they themselves have really been struggling, though, as you've had some really good long relief out of Keegan Aiken with a sub 350 ERA, but then you take a look at some of these guys like a Yaramil Hidalgo. Whenever he's been out there, Corbin Martin, I think that they optioned him out because, man, he was bad. Yanier Cano, don't you know? These guys are all posting up an ERA that is well above a 4. Grant Wolfram, that was a terrible experiment for this team as well. Dietrich Enns has been relatively okay as a long guy, but not a lot of promise there. So I do think that you're going to get quite a bit of run creation, even though Trevor Rogers, this has been a magical season for Trevor Rogers. I still can't believe what he's doing because he was terrible at the AAA level to begin the season. He's come up to the big league level, and since he joined the rotation, he's got a 1.35 ERA in 17 starts. He has given up a grand total of 4 earned runs over his last 5 starts. Not necessarily a strikeout artist, but it's been going up to about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And he's just kept the ball in the yard. 3 home runs allowed in 106 and 2/3 innings. I do think that there's a little bit of regression here. And for Will Warren, there should be probably a little bit of positivity with him. For Warren, he has been getting well above 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. The issue has been the walks, 3.7 walks per 9 innings, only giving up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. So he's got about a 4 fielding depending compared to a 4.35 ERA, and he has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. So I did set a total here of an 8.8. If we're seeing the opener that we're getting right now of an 8.5, I would be taking that over. And with the Yankees, we'll be willing to lay up to a minus 135 on that money line. 965, 966 on the card. It is the Tampa Bay Rays on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays, as Shane Bieber has a fever for getting outs for the Jays, and Adrian Don't Come, Doogie Howser is on the bump for the Rays. Total's game is 8. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. And between plus 152 to a plus 160 is that number on the Rays, and minus 180 180 to minus 190 is that number on Toronto. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Jays, you're going to be getting that at a plus 106, and I was willing to take the plus 106. I needed at least a plus 105. I set my money line price at a minus 184, so we're right on the cusp there, but I'm going to be willing to take a shot with Shane Bieber. He's been solid since coming up to the big league level after having a lot of minor league rehab starts with both the Guardians and the Toronto Blue Jays. He is giving up a little bit more hard contact than what you'd like, 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but he's been giving up well under 2 walks per 9 innings. His strikeout stuff is back over 9 strikeouts for 9, 3.57 ERA in his 6 starts, and you got a guy in Adrian Hauser that just has not been the same since he got traded away from the White Sox. With the White Sox, he was posting up a 2.10 ERA with 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings in his 10 starts. That has now gone up to a 4.65 ERA with 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings with the White Sox, and overall for the season, fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, needing to face off against a Toronto Blue Jays team that they are number 1 in the American League in run creation ever since the All-Star break, with George Springer just finding the fountain of youth this year. 392 on base, 30 home runs. He has been absolutely exceptional. Vlad Guerrero Jr., expect a little bit more than 23 home runs out of him, but he still give you a 385 on base. Bo Bichette, he's hitting above a 300. He's been able to give you 18 home runs. Stone Cold Name, Alejandro Kirk, along Tyler Heineman at the catcher spot, both hitting at least a 280. Heck, you've been able to get some good home run production out of Dalton Varsho. Home run every about 12 at bats, so he doesn't hit for a lot of average. The big issue that you've had with the Blue Jays is this has been a very inconsistent bullpen here in the second half of the season. Post All-Star break, they've been in the bottom 10 in terms of bullpen ERA. Like you still have Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, Braden Fisher. We're all supplying a sub 315 ERA overall for the season, but north of a 350 ever since the All-Star break. It's been a long season for Jeff Hoffman, Mason Flaherty, guys like this rocking an ERA above a 4. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they've been very mix and match with their bullpen as well. They've not been letting their starters go far. I think that they'll let Adrian Hauser go a little bit further because it's got what it is. This is not a guy that they're going to be building around for a decade plus. Sorry, Adrian Hauser. But that said, when you take a look at this bullpen, you saw some solid guys as they've been trotting out their likes of Pete Fairbanks, Eric Orze, Garrett Clevenger, who have been able to give you a sub 305 ERA. Edwin Uceta, a long guy, is about a 365. And in terms of run creation, and for Junior Caminero, 44 home runs this year, and Brandon Lau, 31. Both of these guys hitting right around 260, and man, they're drawing a lot of walks, right around about a 305 to a 310 on base. But Yandy Diaz, 25 bombs, he's been able to about a 300. Chandler Simpson is hitting at 300 with 43 stolen bags. Jake Magnum hitting darn near 300. He's been able to give you 27 stolen bases. Now, Christopher Morel, 290 on base, he has been a little bit of a flop. The entire shortstop spot and the entire catcher spot has just been a big giant mismatch for the Tampa Bay Rays. But all in all, the lineup has been pretty solid, though a little bit top heavy. I do think that they get to Bieber in that bullpen a little bit here, so did somebody tell it at 8.4. I like the over, and with the Blue Jays, I'm going to take anything of a plus 105 or better on that run line. 967, 968 on the card. The Detroit Tigers are on the road. They're facing off against the Boston Red Sox as Kyle Harrison is on the bump for the Sox, and Casey Mize goes for Detroit. Detroit is a underdog of even money. Minus 118 is that number on Boston with a total of 9. The under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Red Sox. I did set them on the money line at a minus 121 for Kyle Harrison. He was looking okay when he was with the Giants this year. I'm not going to say that he was amazing or anything like that, but he's a guy that has a lot of zip on his fastball. He should be able to get a lot of strikeouts here moving forward, as this year his strikeouts per 9 rate between his time with the Red Sox and the Giants, about 8.8 strikeouts at 3 walks per 9 innings, a 358 ERA, 387 fielding dependent, and in his 2 appearances with the Red Sox thus far, combined 9 innings, giving up 1 run and just 2 walks in that time span. So he's looked relatively solid. I think that there's going to be a little bit of regression there, but certainly some upside. And for Casey Mize, it's been a case where he just hasn't been able to get a lot of swing and miss this year. I'm not saying that's awful. He's right around about 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but we've really seen some regression recently. 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, albeit he's only given up about 2.3 walks per 9, but 3 plus runs allowed, and now 3 out of his last 5 starts. And really, this entire Tigers team has just been miring in mediocrity over the last few weeks, and that's about as generously as I could put it. As for Mize, he does go up to about a 4.15 ERA on the road, and on the road he's been giving up about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a bullpen that have found a few okay guys like Bailey Horn, John Brebbia, Brant Herter. These guys have been able to give you sub 3 ERA. Wolves has acted up a little bit, but more around about a 3.30 ERA out of him. But Tommy Camley and the likes of that have not been great, to say the least. Now for Detroit, this is a top 8 team in terms of run creation, and just a lot of solid in this lineup. You've got Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson, your main 2 mashers. 35 bombs out of Green. He's hitting about a 260. Torkelson, 335 on base, 31 home runs. And then Garrett Gary Carpenter has been able to supply 23 plus home runs. He and so many others hang in the neighborhood of, we're going to call it about a 246 to a 261. Gleyber Torres is there. You've been able to have Javi Baez be there as well. Dylan Dingler is above that. He's about a 276 with regards to his average, but got a lot of guys who've been able to do a solid job of moving the line in. For the Boston Red Sox, this team continues to be in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. This is despite the fact that they are missing Roman Anthony, who was so good at the top, but you just have a lot of solid in this lineup as well. The likes of Masataka Yoshida, Trevor Story, Jarren Duran, Carlos Narvaez, all these guys hitting in that neighborhood of like a 250 to a 267. They've all been able to step up whenever you've had Nate Eaton out there. He's been solid. Rami Gonzalez has been able to above a 300, and getting back Weiler Bray was big as well. 22 home runs. He's another guy that's hitting right around about a 250, as he and Trevor Story are like the lone two guys on the roster with above 18 home runs, with Nathaniel Lowe being the next best guy. And Lowe has not hit a lot of home runs since coming on over to Boston, but he's been able to give this team well above a 250 average. And for the Red Sox, they've got the leg up in the bullpen. They have been a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Aroldis Chapman has just been absolutely amazing as a closer, but it's more than just Aroldis Chapman and his 125 ERA with darn near 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is so insane. It is the likes of a Greg Weiser, Justin Wilson, Steven Matz, Garrett Whitlock, these guys who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA who've come up very big for this bullpen. So I do think that the Red Sox get the job done here. I said I told it at 8.9, so on the 9, I like the under. I do like the Red Sox up to a minus 120 on the money line. 969, 970 on the card. The Rangers hit the road. They're facing off against the Cleveland Guardians. Slade Sassoni goes for Cleveland, and you've got Jack Leiter hoping to lighter it up for Texas. Texas is back to being an underdog between plus 116 to plus 125, minus 136 to minus 150. That number on Cleveland. 8 is the total. The under is minus 120. The over is even. Seeing one straight 7.5. That over is minus 122, and the under is even. I did set my total at 7.9, so I'm going to be in on that 8 under with Slade Sassoni. It's been a little bit of an up-down, all-around inconsistent season, but it feels like he's pitching his best right about now. As for Sassoni, overall for the season, 4.15 ERA, 4.62 field independent, with the deep ball being his main kryptonite. 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's only given up 2.2 walks per 9, but over his last 3 starts, a combined 2 earned runs allowed across 20 and 2/3 innings. So he's really starting to excel, and he's really starting to rip there. And he's backed up by a bullpen that has been just so good this year in the top 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. No Emmanuel Clase, no problem for this team, as they've dealt with even an injury to someone like a Nick Enright, who is starting to be able to really blossom for this bullpen as well. But the long guys like a Jacob Junis, along Kobe Aller, they're both give you a sub 280 ERA. Cade Smith and Hunter Gaddis have been a little bit all over the place, but they've been pitching their best recently. They're both now down to a sub 320 ERA. You've even been able to get some good innings out of Eric Sabrowski, who's been very good. He's up to about a 2 ERA. And for the Cleveland Guardians, even though this bunch has been a bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home, they're only averaging about 3.8 to 3.9 runs per game at home. They're getting just enough offense right now. Kyle Manzardo not hitting for a ton of average, but 26 home runs at a 315 on base. Jose Ramirez, 30 bombs, 360 on base, and then Steven Kwan at the top. He's hitting a 275. Now, from there, you've got a lot of guys that just have not been able to move the line. Daniel Schneemann, Nolan Jones, CJ Kafis, Bo Naylor, John Kenzie Noel, Austin Hedges, David Fry, and very unfortunate that David Fry got hit in the face with a baseball, but that said, all these guys hitting at 216 or lower, all with below a 300 on base. And with the Texas Rangers, since the beginning of the month of July, this has been a lineup that has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. They have been able to give you about 4.8 or so runs per game, but they've just dealt with so many injuries. Now, Wyatt Langford hits the injured list, Corey Seager is injured, Marcus Semien is on the injured list. You've got the Josh Young along Josh Smith, both hitting about a 250, and Adolis Garcia supplying 18 home runs, but a 270 on base is not great. Jock Peterson has been better since coming off the injured list, but 9 home runs at a .177 average is not cutting it. Jake Burger, since coming off the injured list, has been quite a bit better as well, hitting above a 300 in that small sample size, but Alejandro, don't call his name, Azuna has not necessarily been amazing. And for the Rangers, their main forte has been their bullpen, a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Likes of Chris Martin, Robert Garcia, Sean Armstrong have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Cole Winn has been very good in this bullpen as well. For Jack Leiter, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of keeping things out in front of him and not allowing too much of the deep ball, right around about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but the walks have been a little bit of an issue. He's given up 4 walks per 9 innings while getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. 392 ERA, fielding independent is very much in line with that, and for Leiter, he does see his ERA go up to about a 441 away from home. And the Guardians, I think that they keep it rolling, they get the job done. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 143 on that Guardians money line, and here at the 8, I'm in on the under, so I told 7.9. 971, 972 on the card. The Astros hit the road. They're facing off against the LA Angels, as it is going to be old undecided right now for the Astros and old undecided for the Angels. So that's why this game is completely off the board. But right now, the projections are showing that it should be the Professor Kyle Hendricks going for the Angels, and it's looking like Jason Alexander, no relation to George Costanza, should be going for the Astros. And if that is indeed the case, I did set the Astros at a minus 131 on the money line, willing to lay up to a minus 130 there, plus 132 or better. Looking at the Angels, and then made a total to wear an 8.5 or less, and on the over a 9 or higher to the under. I don't think that the Astros have any choice other than to pitch Jason Alexander here, because it's his time in the rotation, and they really need these games right now. So there's that aspect of things. And for Jason Alexander, I mean, he's been solid ever since he got to the Astros. Had a very, very unfortunate misstep on Sunday Night Baseball. He just got absolutely lit up by the Seattle Mariners. Got 4 outs, gave up 7 runs, all of which weren't. But even with that blow-up start, since joining Houston, 3.65 ERA. Now it does come with a 4.64 fielding dependent, as he's giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Not a lot of deception, 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. But he faces off against an Angels team that's currently in the bottom 4 of the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage. And we've seen Mike Trout be in and out of the lineup over the last few nights. You have to wonder if they're just going to rest him for the rest of the season, as they're throwing out there a bunch of young guys that just are not hitting. You've had likes of Christian Moore, Denzer Guzman, Chris Taylor, who's obviously not a young guy, but he's a aging guy, Bryce Tedesio, hopefully I said that correct. All of these guys hitting a 220 or lower, and Logan O'Hoppe is there as well. O'Hoppe about a 260 on base, albeit he's got 19 home runs. Joe Adelson fired to the rain with about 36 home runs, about a 300 on base. Taylor Ward, 36 home runs himself, but he was out yesterday, and he's only been able to hit for about a 228 as well. So that's an issue. Mike Trout was back in the lineup yesterday, so that helps them out a little bit, but you can tell that they're resting a few guys here towards the back half of the season. And for the LA Angels, other than Brock and Roll Burke along Kenley Jansen, this has been an absolutely terrible bullpen, as these two guys have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Angels in the bottom 5 of the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. Luis Garcia's not been bad. He's been able to give you about a 350 or so with regards to that ERA, but that said, you've got likes of Jose Arena, Ryan Zefrian, Jose Fermin, Connor Brogdon, a whole bunch of guys that have been able to give you above a 4 ERA. And for the Houston Astros, they've been dealing with their injuries in the bullpen as well, with Bennett Sosa along with Josh Hader being on the injured list. You have to rely upon the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, AJ Bluebaugh has been a relatively good long guy, Stephen Okert. These guys have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Craig Kimbrell is a guy that they've been looking to as well. Honestly, has not been bad, but you don't want to be trusting too much in Craig Kimbrell. And for the Astros, this has been a bottom 5 lineup in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. Jose Altuve has been just fine, 26 home runs. He's been able to about a 265, and when you've had Jeremy Pena out there, he's been able to above a 300, but he's been dealing with a few injuries. So that's a little bit of an issue. Should be good to go for this series because, well, they need him. You've got Cam Smith, though, really struggling ever since the All-Star break. And then you've got Christian Walker, Yanier Diaz. Both of these guys, good power. Diaz, 19 home runs. Walker, 23 home runs. And Diaz is hitting at 254, but just a 283 on base. Walker, 295 on base. So it does lead to a very interesting circumstance. And if you do get Kyle Hendricks, he has been very much pitch to contact because that's what Kyle Hendricks is throughout his career. And for Mr. Kyle Hendricks, 4.79 ERA. The fielding pennant is right around about a 4.67, 1.4 home runs, 2.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, but has been able to do a remarkably better job when he has been in Los Angeles this year rather than on the road. When he has been at home, a 4.33 ERA compared to a 5.26 ERA away from home. If it is indeed Hendricks going against Houston Alexander, we'll delay up to a minus 130 with the Astros, plus 132 or better looking at the Angels. If it's not Hendricks, probably closer to like a minus 140, minus 145, depending upon the situation with the Astros, and whether it's Hendricks or a bullpen game, 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher. The under, 973, 974 on the card. It is the Royals. They're facing off against the Athletics. We do know that Noah Cameron is going to be going for Kansas City, and right now it is old undecided on the bum for the Athletics, so this is a game that's off the board. Now it's looking like it should be one Luis Morales who gets a start for the Athletics, and if that is the case, set the Athletics at a minus 135 on the money line. I'd be willing to lay up to minus 134 there, plus 136 or better looking at the Royals, and then made a total to where a 9.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 10 or higher to the under. If it's not Morales, it's probably closer to a pick 'em because I just really like the way that Luis Morales has went out there ever since he got called up to the big league level. 9 total appearances, 8 starts. He has been an okay swing and miss guy, right around about 7.5 to 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks are relatively high. He has been giving up about 3.2 walks per 9 innings, but much of that came in his first start against the Orioles, where he gave up 5 walks in 2 2/3 innings. Ever since then, sub 3 walks per 9 innings. He's really been able to round into form. He's been able to make sure that he's been able to, just for lack of a better term, keep things out in front of him. And even in Sacramento, in the innings that he's pitched there, 23 2/3 innings, 4 home runs allowed, a 3.80 ERA. That's honestly relatively respectable given this ballpark. And for Noah Cameron, this guy is overdue for regression, as he's just not a strikeout artist that has been getting away with a lot of balls in the zone. For Cameron, a 2.90 ERA, but a 4.22 fielding dependent, 1.2 home runs, 2.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and yet he's only given up 5 total earned runs over the course of his last 3 starts, and has went 20 2/3 innings in those starts as well, but it's allowed a combined 4 home runs in those starts as well. So I do think that there's going to be a little bit of issue there, and for the Kansas City Royals, this has been one of the lesser offenses in all of baseball in terms of their just overall run creation, though you do have Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino supplying the deep ball. Perez, 30 home runs, 31 out of Vinny Pasquantino, but Perez less than a 290 on base. Pasquantino has been able to about a 270. Bobby Witt Jr. just does a little bit of everything, 37 stolen bags, 23 home runs, 350 on base, and Miguel Garcia over at 340 on base. He's up to 16 home runs, bottom of the lineup with the likes of John Ray, Jack Caglione, Michael Massey, Randall Grichuk, all hitting at 230 or lower. Even Mikey Yastrzemski, who they pulled out of the leadoff spot. You need a little bit more there, and on the other end for the Athletics, this has been a top 8 offense in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. I know that things were less than savory for them on Thursday, but still, you got Shea Langeliers, Shea Banks for his over 31 home runs this season, hitting at 270. Tyler Soderstrom, 24 bombs, 350 on base. Nick Kurtz is up to 34 home runs with a 385 on base. Brent Rooker has been able to supply the boom, 30 home runs, 265 average. Bottom of the lineup with some of these guys like a Willie McIver, Darrell Hernandez, guys like that have been a little bit rough. Kobe Thomas, but his top half of the lineup has been amazing, and for the Athletics, the big issue they have with this team is their bullpen, as you do have a pair of guys I like in Michael Kelly along with Sean Newcomb, but Newcomb is right now not with the team, so that's a little bit of an issue for you. And then you do have a lot of guys that are posting up an ERA that is well above a 4. Hogan Harris, Scott McGough, Tyler Ferguson, Oswaldo Bido. That's not been amazing, to say the least. Brady Basso, in a small sample size, has been relatively solid, but I do think that if you do get Luis Morales, it's going to be a nice start here. Now, if you get someone like a Mitch Spence, he's probably a slight favorite. Bullpen game, it's more of a pick-em for the Athletics, so be mindful of that. But if you do get Luis Morales, I'm willing to lay up to -134 on the Athletics, plus 136 or better looking at the Royals, and then 9.5 or less in on the over, 10 or higher to the under with Morales. If it's on Morales, 10 or less to the over, 10.5 or higher the under. 975, 976 on the card. The White Sox hit the road. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals, and for the Nats, it's going to be Kate Cavalli going for them. For the White Sox, right now we are expecting Yandres Gomez going for them, but as of right now, this game is off the board and it's a little bit TBD. If you do indeed get your Yandres Gomez, set the Nationals at a -143. I'm going to be willing to lay up to -142 there, plus 144 or better looking at the White Sox, and then set a total to where an 8.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. If it's not Gomez, I probably would make this closer to about a -150, but it wouldn't really matter much because Yandres Gomez has been trotted out there for 3 different teams this far this season and just hasn't been too effective. 4.92 ERA. The strikeout stuff is solid. He's been able to get about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's given up 4.3 walks per 9 innings. It's been a little bit ping-pong, up-down all around, though. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts, so he's been looking a little bit better recently. But I mean, for the White Sox, if you throw out there a long guy like a Mike Vasil, he's actually been able to supply a sub-325 ERA. Steven Wilson has been solid in this bullpen. Now, the shorter guys have really had their issues. You've had a guy like a Tyler Alexander, Tyler Gilbert, both of these guys posting up above a 350 ERA. Jordan Leisure has been a little bit better, but Grant Taylor continues to give you an ERA above a 4. But for the White Sox, this team is actually in the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break. They've been swinging and missing much less. You don't have a ton of supreme power out there. Lennon Sosa has been your main man, 21 home runs. He's hitting about a 260. And then you do have a few guys who move the line. Mike Tauchman, Chase Madrith have been able to give you above a 330 on base. And then the catcher spot, Edgar Quiero, Kyle Teal, both hitting above a 270. That's been rock solid. Michael A. Taylor has been awful. They're now getting Corey Julks, who I really like out there. Derek Hill, he's had his issues, hitting about a 215. And Luis Robert has been dealing with injury. And Andrew Benintendi's season's done, so that's an issue. They might have Mike Tauchman in his season as well. He might land on the injured list prior to this podcast coming out as well. So they're dealing with quite a few injuries on that front. And for the Washington Nationals, this team is not rolling over and dying. They're going to be looking to a lot of their young guys in this spot, as you've had a lot of guys like Brady Ellis, Robert Hassel, Andres Shapiro, Dylan Cruz, who have all been giving you less than a 300 on base with not necessarily a lot of power, though Dallin Lyle has been very good for the team. Dallin Lyle has made with about a 285. And then you've got CJ Abrams, who's up to 18 home runs and has been hitting about a 265. Problem is, only 3 of those 18 home runs have come at home this far this season. But Josh Bell, ever since the beginning of the month of July, hitting above at 250, he's been able to supply the team with over 20 home runs. James Wood is giving you good wood, 350 on base. He's up to 30 home runs. The big thing for the Washington Nationals is bullpen. It's just absolutely awful. Dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You just really don't have any trustworthy guys out there whatsoever. Connor Pilkington, Julian Fernandez, Jackson Rutledge, Sinkuski, Ogasawara. You just go down the list of guys, posting up a 4.50 ERA or higher. But for Cade Cavalli, in his 9 total appearances, he hasn't been too bad. 4.23 ERA, but he has really been able to excel when he's been in Washington. In his 4 starts in Washington, 0 home runs allowed in 21 1/3 innings, 2.11 ERA, 6.17 ERA on the road. With that start against the New York Yankees, just absolutely ballooning things up. So I do think that Cavalli gives you a good start, whether it's Gomez or like a bullpen game for the White Sox. One to lay up to about a -142 with the Nationals against Gomez, more like a -150 against a bullpen, plus 144 or better would be looking at Gomez and the White Sox. And then whether it's Gomez or the bullpen game, 8.5 or less in on the over 9 or higher, the under 977, 978 on the card. It is the Minnesota Twins, and they're going to be on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies, as Aaron Nola looks to be super for the Phils, and Joe Ryan is on the bump for the Minnesota Twins. Right now, the Phillies are a -142 favorite, plus 120 is in around Minnesota with a total of 8.5. The over is -115, and the under is -105. Right now, we only have the FanDuel opener, but if this gets to a -137 or better, I am willing to trust in the Phillies on the money line. This despite the fact that Aaron Nola, man, this guy's been just an absolute disaster thus far this season. I don't know if they're going to be able to pitch him in the postseason. For Aaron Nola, 6.46 ERA. He has given up 4+ runs in now 4 out of his last 5 starts, but still the team has been able to persevere despite some of those just complete and utter blow-ups. He's been still getting 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He should be doing for some positivity. 477 fielding dependent. The 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings is a big issue, but there are some of these teams that they're still plucky, they're still fighting for something, and the Twins, they just don't really feel like that because they traded away so many guys at the deadline. Now you send Matt Wallner down to the injured list. That hurts some. Byron Buxton has still been rock solid for this lineup. Byron Buxton, 34 home runs, about a 330 on base, and you've had Trevor Lawrence supply 17 home runs, hitting about a 250. Lucas Shield, though, who is really showing a lot of promise, moving the line, getting on base. He is now on the injured list after he was hitting for like a 300, and then just have a lot of these guys like Deshaun Kersey, James Outman, Mickey Gasper, Eduardo Julian, the young guys that they're trying to give at bats to. They're only at 225 or lower. You've had Cody Clemens be able to hit for 19 home runs at about 330 at bats, but he's hitting for less than a 290 on base as well. So, I mean, that's a disaster on the Twins bullpen right now, man. They traded away all their good pieces at the trade deadline. That means that you're going to get the likes of Cody Funderburk, Justin Topa, who's been dealing with a little bit of injury himself, along with Cole Sands, a whole bunch of guys right now that are posting up well above a 350 ERA. Michael Tonkin has been a disaster. Pearson Yule has been a disaster, so that's not great. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, this bullpen has actually been looking quite a bit better ever since they sent Jordan Romano down to the injured list, as you've had also Jose Alvarado go on the injured list, and he just was not good coming off of suspension. But you've had likes of Ryan Kerkering, Matt Strom, Tanner Banks, obviously Yohan Duran, and even Lou Trevino. These guys have all been able to give you a sub-340 ERA in a Phillies uniform, and I think that the Phillies just flat out slug their way to victory. They're averaging nearly 5.5 runs per game at home. That is number 2 in all of baseball. The home run power is starting to come to guys not named Kyle Schwarber as well. We saw them hit the bunch of home runs that they did on, I believe it was Wednesday. Kyle Schwarber, 56 home runs, 370 on base, but Bryce Harper, 27 home runs with a 360 on base. You've had a really good season in general for Brandon Marsh in terms of move line at 345 on base. He's now up to 11 home runs, so he's giving you something. Omando Sosa had a 3 home run game earlier in the week. He's hitting about a 280. They get Alec Boehm off the injured list, so that's big. And for Joe Ryan, he has been one of the few good things for this Minnesota Twins team, and I actually do think that Joe Ryan is going to be able to go out there and give you a relatively good representative start, as overall for the season, he's posting up an ERA of a 347, but it feels like the grind of the season season has gotten to him as well. 5+ runs allowed in 3 of his last 5 starts. 3.47 ERA, 3.77 fielding dependent. 10 strikeouts at 2.1 walks per 9 innings. But the biggest thing with him is that he has been giving up the deep ball. 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. When he has been on the road this season, he's been giving up in that neighborhood about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. So it's a circumstance where I did set this money line at a -138, so 1.8 to a -137 with the Phillies, and 8.5 or less, I'm in on the over, and wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. It is the Dodgers. They are on the road. They're facing off against the Seattle Mariners, as we know that Emmett Sheehan is going to be on the bump for the Dodgers. Right now, it is old to be determined who's going to be going for the Mariners, so this is a game that is currently off the board. A lot of people are thinking that it's going to be George Kirby, and I've got my handicap in case if you do get Mr. Kirby. I made the Mariners money line a -104, so a -103 or better. We'll be looking at Seattle, +105 or better, looking at the Dodgers, and set a total of 7.7, 7.5 or less, in on the over, and 8 or higher to the under. Now, if it's not George Kirby, the Dodgers probably become like a -125 to a -130 favorite, unless it's like Brian Wu. Brian Wu would actually make this like a -115 or so, so there's a lot of different scenarios there, and that's sort of the pain of the end of the season. But in terms of Emmett Sheehan, we know what we're going to get out of him, and he has been quite good for the Dodgers this season, as he comes in having allowed 4 runs over the course of his last 5 starts, 10.7 strikeouts, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 2.86 ERA, with a fielding independent that is hardly above a 3. Now, he does have a 4.40 ERA when he's away from home, but Seattle, as we know, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks out there in all of baseball, albeit you have to go up against big dumper Cal Raleigh, who's got 60 home runs as far this season and a 350 on base, and Eugenio Suarez hitting below the nose line of 200 since he's joined Seattle, but he's got 48 home runs this season. And then you do have the guys who are able to move the line. Dom Canzone has been able to hit at 300. He's already got a 3 home run game to his credit. Julio Rodriguez, 32 bombs. Randy Arozarena, 27 home runs. Arozarena, not a great average, but more like a 330, 340 on base. JP Crawford has been able to move the line as well. And for the Seattle Mariners, you do have really good top-end bullpen pitching as well, which the Dodgers don't have, because even though the Dodgers get back the likes of Blake Trinan, they get back Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, all these guys have been posting up an ERA well above a 3.75, and for the Seattle Mariners, I recognize that the bottom end of the bullpen with the likes of Carlos Vargas and company can be a little bit of an issue, but that said, when you've been able to have the likes of a Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Bizardo, Gabe Spire, all be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. That is pretty powerful, and you've got a Dodgers team that is obviously in the top 5 of the big leagues with regards to run creation. They've had Will Smith getting jiggy with it on the injured list, but Freddie Freeman is still giving you a 360+ on base. He's been able to supply the team with well over 20 home runs. Mookie Betts, second half of the season, has been hitting for well above a 330 on base. He has been much better here in the second half of the campaign. Shohei Ohtani, 54 home runs, 390 on base, just absolutely incredible. And Andy Paz just continuing his good season. He's up to 27 bombs. He's been able to about a 275. You'd like to see Teoscar Hernandez hit for a little bit more on base with a 285 on base, but still he's been able to give you some nice home run power. The catcher spot has been an issue without Will Smith, and Kike Hernandez has not been great out there in the infield, but that said, if you do get Mr. Emmett Sheehan going up against George Kirby, he's up to about 2.2 walks per 9 innings, and I recognize that George Kirby does have a relatively high ERA, but if you look at the fielding independent, he should be doing for a lot of positivity on that 4.24 ERA. Fielding independent more around about a 3.39, 9.4 strikeouts to 2.1 walks per 9 innings. And for George Kirby, this has been consistent for him all throughout his career. It's been a whole heck of a lot better when he's been in Seattle rather than away from home. 3.36 home ERA, 5.16 ERA when he's been away from home, and he's giving up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings at home, closer to about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs when he's away from home. So if you do get Kirby going against Emmett Sheehan, 7.5 or less, going to be looking at the over, and 8 or higher to the under. And with the Mariners, -103 or better, looking at their money line, +105 or better, looking at the Dodgers. If it's not George Kirby, and if it's Brian Wu instead, like a -110 to a -115, anyone not named Wu or Kirby, the Dodgers probably become like a -125 to a -130 favorite. And if you do get Kirby/Wu, again, that total remains there. And if you don't get Kirby/Wu, an 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. And that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Dylan Rockford of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LarsCM naming does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season into the postseason, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
DC politicians want to enact harmful credit card mandates that could take away your cash back and rewards points. Perks that stretch your budget and make life a little easier. Losing these benefits means less money for your family's everyday essentials like gas and groceries. The perks you rely on could disappear, leaving you with higher costs and fewer options. Tell Congress to guard your card and oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card mandates.
Paid for by Electronic Payments Coalition.